Welcome to Travolting, hosted by Jeff Sweeney and Stuart Elmore. Covering Perfect. Enjoy the episode. Thank you, folks. Welcome to our episode on Perfect, as the intro said. Thank you all for joining us last week for Two of a Kind. The greatest movie ever made.
Last week.
And our best episode.
I keep forgetting that the movie that we covered last week was Two of a Kind.
Yeah.
Because it's about angels, and I keep wanting to say Eyes of an Angel.
Yeah.
Because it has angels in it.
It's to my knowledge that Eyes of an Angel does not have an angel in it.
Whoever did that should be fired.
But no, this week we are covering Perfect.
Perfect.
In my humble opinion, more like imperfect. If you get what I'm saying.
Well, we had to get one out of the way.
Yeah.
We had to do one perfect joke.
More like
This movie's not perfect.
far from perfect.
It's very far from perfect. Quite imperfect, one might say.
Yes. Yes.
Also, should we acknowledge the girlfriend in the room?
Yes. Sure.
Hi, Becca. Do you want to say hi?
Yeah, I mean, did you use that as an elephant in the room? Because now I
See,
feel like I need to kick your ass.
In my head, I thought I was almost going to say elephant in the room, like, oh, she's going to kick my ass if I say elephant in the room. So I changed it to girlfriend in the room. So it's not elephant in the room.
Look at there, so.
Becca is a very amazing
She's our
person.
graphic designer.
Yes,
among many
our graphic
other things.
designer. So actually, for folks listening to the podcast, we've had Becca on all of our episodes.
She's just been extremely silent.
Extremely silent, sitting in the corner and hasn't said a word. So I just thought we addressed Becca. Hi, Becca.
What's that?
Yeah.
All right, back to perfect.
Yes. Back to perfect.
Becca's perfect.
Yes. I agree with this statement.
Yeah.
Because
Are you guys going to say who I'm dating in the room?
me.
Yes. For folks listening, Jeff and Becca are in a relationship.
Yes.
Because it's just the girlfriend.
Present.
Yeah, we should give context to my previous statement, girlfriend in the room. She is dating Jeff Sweeney.
Yes.
So for
this is
people
true.
on our Apple podcast who's putting all those like
for-
sexual comments for Jeff Sweeney, just know that he's
Yeah,
taken.
I'm getting a lot of talk about my voice on the podcast. So thank you, but stop.
They love your voice, Jeff.
They do. Anyway,
It's a perfect voice.
yes. You know what else is perfect?
Not this
The
movie.
title of this movie.
We'd love to see
Yes. But before we get into that, I do want to give a very special shout out on this episode.
it. Yeah.
To I'm bringing up the name right now.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a second. I'm a little behind.
Awkward dead silence.
Yeah, a little dead silence. All right, here we go. I'm going to give a shout out to Reddit user u/Audie and Eddie, who is our first post on the subreddit.
Yeah.
He listened to our Saturday Night Fever episode, really enjoyed it, wrote a little analysis of the movie and his thoughts on our episode.
Yeah.
He says he's a fan from Minnesota, and we're glad that you enjoyed the episode, and we're happy to have you aboard.
Minnesota.
Yeah.
What's the Reddit user?
Audie and Eddie.
Audie and Eddie.
So I don't know if this is Audie or Eddie who posted the post, but we want to give a special shout out and a thanks to our first Reddit fan.
Well, Reddit user Audie, Eddie, we appreciate you having fun listening to our podcast. We do want to have a clarification that we are disbarred from Australia, any cowboy communities, White Castle. What else, Jeff? If you like episode 8, if you like Star Wars episode 8,
No, if you don't like it, you aren't allowed to listen to the show.
if you don't like episode 8, yeah, and if you want us to cover Welcome Back, Kotter,
Yes.
all of those things, then I apologize. But if
You're taking a risk enjoying the show because we've just alienated half the world's population.
yes, so therefore they must really be devoted to the podcast,
Yes.
and therefore we
really do
you.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
It means a lot. We're still a fairly young podcast, so anybody who enjoys
Yeah,
it,
we're
really
still
do
very
enjoy.
young, and we're clearly not perfect.
Yes. Unlike the title of this movie, Perfect 1985.
Do you love that we have that like permanent
Yeah,
segue?
the
that
permanent
we can
segue.
do?
We
Yeah.
could get super off topic and find a way back.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
It's amazing.
It is amazing.
But yeah, this film came out in 1985.
1985.
We're following up Travolta's collapse in the early 80s.
Yeah, this is 2 years after Two of a Kind.
Yes, this is 5 years after Blowout, which is kind of the pinnacle of his kind of fall off the ledge with the Blowout, a movie he put a lot of work into.
Yeah.
Got really good critical raves, but collapsed at the box office.
It's a tragedy.
He thought people didn't want to see serious Travolta. So what does he do? He goes back to what he got famous on.
Yeah.
He does a sequel to Saturday Night Fever. He does another movie with Olivia Newton-John.
Yeah.
Both of which dig him even deeper into the hole.
Yeah.
He's now really deep in this hole.
Yeah, so what would you classify this as the him going back to his roots? Because we've done Olivia Newton-John.
He's reteaming with his director for Urban Cowboy in this one, James Bridges. So he's been trying to recapture that old magic.
Right.
But I would say at this point he's just a little too old to be playing the like swanky teenager.
Does he play the swanky teenager much in this?
He does not, and I think it's a smart move on the movie's end.
Yeah.
But for both Staying Alive and Two of a Kind.
He's given a very mature presence in this movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually kind of like his performance in this movie.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that, but, the movie has a lot of faults, but I would say the 2 stars aren't necessarily one of them.
Yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis is actually fantastic in this movie.
Yes.
And we will get into it.
And Travolta's great, and their chemistry is great.
Yes. There are other problems with this movie that make it not perfect.
Also, something that I wanted to point out, so like in this movie, just kind of a little observation, Travolta's 31, Jamie Lee Curtis is 28.
Yes.
Is this like one of the first, I don't think it's the first, but one of the first where his romantic co-star is younger than him?
Yes, I believe this would be
because like Deborah Winger.
Yeah.
Older than him?
I believe so. I mean, actually, I might be very wrong about that.
And Blowout. Actress who was in Blowout.
No, Deborah Winger's younger than him.
And then
she's around the same age.
Who was the actress who played Allen? Nancy Allen. Nancy Allen, I think, was younger than John Travolta in Blowout.
Yes.
But
okay, so not the first, but
not the first,
yes.
but definitely like notable because their chemistry is really good. And Travolta had some flings with older women.
Yes. And at this point, he's not trying to play a young guy in this movie,
right?
Necessarily,
right?
Which is partially why I like his performance.
Yeah.
But anyway, yes, he is reteaming with James Bridges, who he worked with on Urban Cowboy, to moderate success.
Yeah,
it wasn't his biggest smash hit, but it was a solid double or triple.
Yeah. It was
not a home run, double or triple.
Yeah, he's misogynistic in that movie.
Yes, he is terrible in that movie.
He's horrible. I rooted for the convict in the first two. In the first 2 acts, I was rooting for the convict.
Yes,
the guy who escaped from prison.
Yes,
I re-listened to that episode and I recognize how funny that bit was.
Yes, they were rooting for the bad guy.
Yeah,
but this is a similar movie to Urban Cowboy in some respects, and that's kind of it. It's written by the same guy, Aaron Latham.
Yeah.
Who was a journalist for Rolling Stone.
Okay.
And he wrote the article that was the Lonesome Urban Cowboy or whatever it was called.
Yeah, because this is another like magazine article adaptation, like Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah. Whereas Saturday Night Fever and Urban Cowboy specifically written by the same guy, Aaron Latham. He writes the movie, moderate success.
Yeah.
He wants to reteam with James Bridges.
Yeah.
And Latham, so he contracts him to write this new movie. Instead of the urban cowboy subculture, he's interested in dance subculture or aerobic subculture.
Right.
Like gym culture. Is it the singles bars of the 80s?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the weird thing about this movie is that instead of Urban Cowboy, which is about that culture, Latham writes this script where he's essentially the main character as the journalist investigating this culture.
Right.
And the movie's kind of like a dissection of his own. It's kind of a self-reflective piece of Aaron Latham investigating his own history.
Subject line for the movie.
His own history as a magazine writer for Rolling Stone.
I think that made sense in context of the story because, if you take it the exact route of Urban Cowboy, which is the character is inside the culture rather than an outsider coming in, it's just going to be a stereotypical rom-com. You know, guy who doesn't feel like he's got a lot of luck dating other women. What does he do? He goes to an aerobics class, meets somebody, they fall in love, they have a couple issues in the second act, they make up in the third act, happily ever after. Boring.
No, this is a movie about a Rolling Stone guy writing the article about the thing that the writer of the movie wrote.
Yeah, thinking about it on the surface, I think that was a good move.
And the weird thing is, the guy playing the Rolling Stone editor in this is the actual Rolling Stone editor.
Oh, that I did not know.
Yeah, the guy he's the founder of Rolling Stone.
What?
And he's playing himself in this movie.
What? That's
so,
pretty dope.
While I don't think this movie is the most successful thing,
it's got a lot going for it.
I think it's a very fascinating. It's just a movie about a movie written by a guy about himself and his own history, and kind of interrogating his responsibility for people's lives and culture.
Yeah, yeah. I do think when I was reading some of the critics' reviews of it, and I kind of recognize in myself that the moral stance it's trying to take does get muddled throughout the film, because it's like, what is it trying to say? Is it trying to say that like, journalists have a responsibility to tell like the truth as it stands, or they should like muddy the waters as opposed to not hurting somebody's feelings? Like it gets a little muddled halfway, and I understood the critics' response to it.
And see, here's the writer Latham's what he said about this movie. He said part of the film is what's wrong with journalism.
Yeah.
But the other half of the story is about what's right with journalism. And I think that just kind of exemplifies that muddiness you're talking about, where
right.
It's trying to have its cake and eat it too.
Right.
Being a movie about the problems with journalism while also being the movie about the necessity of journalism.
Yeah.
And I think that's an interesting divide to explore. Like the good that journalism does, even if it leaves some carnage in its wake.
Yeah.
But this movie's not wholly interested in that point, because it has to like put a love subplot in and also deal with some business about First Amendment rights.
A lot of business in this film. And we talked a little bit about this before, but there's a lot of like people traveling business.
This is a 2-hour movie. It could probably be a 100 minutes.
Yeah, easily 30 minutes could be taken off this movie. I know where to take the cuts too.
Yeah,
all the plane scenes, where is she? She's at this different place.
Yeah,
and then they're like traveling. Like there's so many like traveling people have to go to A and then B and then C and then they get their objective. Could easily go A to B and get their objective. Yes. Cut the C part out. Okay,
we don't need a C or D.
We don't need a C or D. There's a lot of C or Ds in this movie.
Yes.
A lot of Ds.
Yes.
A lot of D's in this film.
Yes. There are actually no D's in this movie because it is it's not a. I mean, I think actually no, it's R-rated.
It is R-rated.
I was gonna say it's PG-13, and then I realized PG-13 does not exist at this point.
God, I can't believe how many films we've covered that have been before the PG-13 rating.
This movie comes out the year PG-13 exists, or comes to exist.
Interesting. So Temple Doom came out this year.
Temple Doom, yeah.
A lot of stuff came out the same year. I think Aliens.
Yeah, believe it or not, a lot of movies come out.
In the 80s?
Years. No, in years. Like, can you believe that? There's like more than one movie that comes out a year.
I'm choosing this to be a dead moment.
Yeah, the silence is definitely.
I'm choosing that to just resonate there. I'm gonna let the audience decide if that was a funny joke, Jeff.
No, it was a bad joke.
No, it might be good. I might just be wrong.
Yeah, but going back to kind of the conception of this movie.
Yeah.
Latham approached Bridges to collaborate on the screenplay after Urban Cowboy. And Bridges said, Aaron called me and asked if I'd be interested in doing another popular culture piece. I had this idea about how to approach the material from a different point of view, and Aaron became excited about that idea. Mm-hmm. And so their first movie together worked out well. How are they going to make it work again this time? Going to bring back the same star. Who do they go to? John Travolta. Who's looking for a hit right now? John Travolta. So he agrees.
Yeah.
You know who else is big at this time?
Jamie
Lee Curtis popping off.
Yeah.
A few years after more than a few years after Halloween.
Halloween was in the 70s, right?
Yeah, like late 70s.
So I think she's done 2 of them already, right?
Yeah, she did Halloween 1 and 2, and then she does not return until Halloween H20, Halloween 7.
H20.
And then she's in the opening scene of Halloween Resurrection.
And she's in like the 2017
Yeah, and then she's in the
reboot.
Yeah, the reboot sequel. Isn't it funny that the Halloween franchise has like 7 different timelines?
Yeah.
3 separate movies called Halloween.
And then there was like the Rob Zombie universe one.
Yeah.
And then, For our next episode that we're going to do later, we're probably just going to talk more about Halloween than the actual movie.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah.
I hate to get ahead of myself, Jeff. I'm just...
No, we're gonna have the next episode is gonna be 6 hours long. We have so much to talk about. The Halloween cast.
Remember the last time we tried doing this?
Yeah.
Last time we tried to do a 6-hour-long podcast on one movie that we didn't have much to talk about.
It went great. Everyone loved that episode. No complaints were had. Anyway.
Also, shout out to a good friend of mine who's in the military right now who did watch that entire moment-by-moment episode.
Yeah, he listened to the whole thing. He sent us the hashtag strip lives. We appreciate you.
We appreciate you, Nico. Nico, if you're listening to this,
Nico, you rule. You're the best.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yes. So Jamie Lee Curtis doing great after Halloween 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Everyone is in on the JLC train.
Yeah.
Everyone's kind of off the Travolta train, but they're happy to get back on.
Yeah. Is everybody off the Travolta train?
They're rapidly deboarding.
Yeah. So he's not like a name that if you saw him, you would flock to theaters.
You'd
as
be
it
like,
was for...
oh yeah, that guy. He was, I don't know what's happened to him recently. I'll check it out.
Okay.
He's not,
that makes sense.
He's
kind of
not,
like Brendan Fraser today. Like if you see a Brendan Fraser movie today, it's like you're not going to flock to theaters, but you'd be like, oh yeah, that guy from The Mummy. I wonder what he's been doing.
I would say more Brendan Fraser in like 2008-ish.
Yeah, that'd be probably more accurate.
Or maybe like Looney Tunes back in action, Brendan Fraser.
Oh my god!
Where it's like we're a few years past The Mummy at this point. He's not like a huge name anymore, but you're happy to see him.
You're happy to see him.
You're happy to see Travolta. You're happy
Ricochet
to see
O'Connell.
You're like, oh, him and Jamie Lee Curtis. That's going to be a winning the screen combo.
Yeah,
I'll see this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, people didn't see this movie.
It wasn't perfect.
Actually, I think it actually did decently at the box office. Let me check. I can find no one.
Jeff right now is looking for box office numbers.
I'll find it when we get to the end of the episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you want to just dive right into the movie?
Sure. As we said, came out in 1985. The first thing we see, well, it starts off with like a 1980s pop. By the way, for audience like listening, and I think this is something to educate, we have a variety of age groups in our audience. And so for the younger crowd, like there might be certain conceptions of like what the 80s was like in culture. And there's something to very, and again, I'm 25. I wasn't born.
You were
in the
not
80s.
alive in the 80s.
I wasn't alive in the 80s. I've just done a little bit of research. And to my understanding, there were like 2 gigantic cultural shifts in the 80s. There's like the early 80s, which is like the pop 80s. We're coming out of disco. We're coming out of all this stuff. And we're getting like poppy 80s music. Think San Junipero from Black Mirror 80s. Then late 80s when we're getting into rock and roll, it's like punk stuff like that. This is in the pop 80s era.
Yes.
Yeah. So the opening scene is like a pop 80s era title sequence.
This movie has a hell of a like needle drop.
Yes,
well,
it does.
It starts with Travolta at a local newspaper. And he's
Christmas
writing
time.
obituaries.
He's an obituary writer.
And he's calling people. He's like, oh, when did they die? How did they die? Where are they going to be buried? He's like, I need to know the cause of death because I can't write without the cause of death.
What is this?
It's me doing John Travolta.
Okay.
But he needs to get cause of death. And his editor's like, you'll never write in this town again, son.
Yeah, because he's like, I can't do another obituary, please.
He's like, I want to be a serious writer. And the guy's like, hey, you'll never be a serious writer. And
it's like, think of this as your last shot.
Yeah. And then there's like a smash cut to like super loud 80s music playing.
Yeah.
And the opening credits, which are just over like a tan screen.
Yeah.
And then the credits have some wild names in them.
Yeah.
We got Michael Kaplan, who did the costume design.
Mm-hmm.
Did all the most recent Star Trek and Star Wars movies.
Yep.
Very big name.
Mm-hmm.
And then Gordon Willis.
Gordon Willis.
The DP of all 3 Godfathers. The Parallax View, among many other 70s classics.
Yeah, this has quite the department head list.
Maybe one of the most iconic like movies for cinematography of all time, The Godfather. Yeah. And
he's doing
perfect
with John Travolta.
And while I wouldn't say his work is perfect, I would say it's pretty good. The movie is pretty well shot.
It is pretty well shot. There's not a lot of moments for him to like really squeeze the cinematography lemon because a lot of it takes place like bright lighting, high key, and everything is like very well lit. And there's not a lot of nuancey scenes.
There's some very nice compositions though.
Yes, that was what I was going to get to. There are lots of great composition choices in this movie.
And so shout out Gordon Willis.
Yeah.
And I would say that's part of the reason why I think this movie's a little better than it gets credit for. I'm not going to say it's perfect though.
It's not perfect.
Yes.
Right.
But after that, it's funny because like the opening credits are of this tan screen, and at the end, the tan screen flips up, and it's Travolta's notebook. What?
It's Travolta's notebook.
What a twist!
What a twist.
We thought it was just a cool backdrop, but no, it's his notebook.
It's his notebook.
And we see he's scribbling notes inside.
Yep.
He's trying to get an interview with Joseph McKenzie.
Joseph McKenzie. I gotta say at the first act of this movie, they keep going back to this case, and this case goes out the entire film.
Yes. It disappears for like 30 minutes though.
It does disappear, but like I didn't know if this was important or just some business to show that he's a reporter. It's important.
Yes.
Like it actually comes back like towards the end of the movie, but in the beginning you're wondering like, why am I paying attention to this second story he's doing? Because you think the main story is the aerobic story, and then you actually watch the movie. It's not really the main story.
There's a lot of main stories going on here.
Well, like the Joseph McKenzie's like his primary thing.
Yeah.
And the aerobics, it's like, I got a spare hour or two. I'll just write about an aerobics class.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of what this is.
But he's trying to get an interview with this guy, Joseph McKenzie, who is a computer magnate.
Yeah.
Who was somehow got involved in drug dealing.
I did not take good notes about what was going on with this Joseph McKenzie.
Yes.
I just wrote down high dollar case.
I know that they mentioned he was like making computers and they weren't selling, and he sold them to some like communist country, and somehow drugs got involved.
Communism.
Yes.
80s.
The 80s are back, baby.
Yeah, we're in the Ronald Reagan administration.
We have just reelected Ronald Reagan in 1985.
Yes,
we're
we
back
did.
We're back for another term.
Let's get those space lasers in space.
Yes.
So yeah,
But
he's doing a story for that, and that's when I immediately start talking about the hair.
yes.
So let's go to the hair. Cue the hair music. The hair rating. I made that up.
That was the worst thing we've ever done.
Thank you. So the hair. I wrote down not bad. Jeff is looking at Becca right now. I don't know why.
I just wanted to see if there was a reaction.
Can you pull up the hair ranking, Jeff?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So I wrote down for the hair ranking that this is not bad. I put it on par with Blowout, slightly better.
Slightly better than Blowout.
Slightly
but
better than
below
Blowout.
Saturday Night Fever.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
It's in the category of I would put it like in the category of like adult Travolta hair.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like adult Travolta hair. Staying Alive was not adult Travolta hair. This is a Broadway performer Travolta hair.
This is Rocky hair.
That was Rocky hair. This is just adult Travolta hair.
Yeah.
Like, what can we do with Travolta's hair to make him look like a responsible adult? Like Blowout.
Mm-hmm.
And like, what else is like around the Blowout time? What's below Blowout? Two of a Kind. Yeah, Two of a Kind, I would say same thing. It's like, let's make him look like an adult.
Yeah, he's an adult now.
And so this is like on par with that. I would say it's slightly better than Blowout just because there's a little bit of more action in the back.
Yes, he's
know?
got something going on.
You got like the
He's got some junk in the trunk.
permy curls in the back happening a little bit. You know, Blowout's more grease slick back, you know? This has a little bit of freshness to
Yeah.
it. Like he's not afraid to let it grow out and curl. And this one does that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's that. This was the hair ranking brought to you by Stuart Elmore for John Travolting Podcast.
Yes.
The hair rating.
A former acapella singer over here. It's true. It's true. You can find it online.
Stop. No.
Anyone listening, you can
No,
find it
blah,
online.
blah, 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 blah. I'm cutting this out.
Anyway, but
So after the hair
so,
rating.
Yes. So he's talking to this PR rep
Yep.
for Joseph McKenzie. He's like, don't you want him to get his side of the story out? And the PR rep's like, no. Press is good press. Like,
No press is good.
if he talks, he's in the middle of a case that could send him to jail for the rest of his life. I'm not going to let him talk to a Rolling Stone reporter.
Right. Yeah.
He's like, well, just talk to him. Tell him I will be unbiased. I'll get his side of the story out.
Right.
And the PR rep's like, hey, screw you or whatever.
Yeah.
He walks off.
Hey, you don't fuck the future. Future fucks you.
Yeah, okay, Saturday Night Fever. Travolta heads home, or not home, but back to work at the Rolling Stone offices.
Yeah.
And then he goes out with his boss, Mark. and his photographer, whose name is
I don't remember.
Frankie. Her name's Frankie.
The only names I bothered to remember is that John Travolta's Adam Lawrence and Jamie Lee Curtis's first name is Jesse in this film.
Yes.
I don't know her last name.
Jesse Wilson. But
Cool. You think she's related to Alex Wilson, our good
yes,
friend?
our good friend.
Alex, if you're listening to this, which I know you're not, hi.
But yeah, he goes out with them, Frankie and Mark, to lunch, and Carly Simon walks into the restaurant.
Oh yeah,
Actual Carly Simon
actual
playing
Carly
herself.
Simon.
Walks up to our boy Adam.
And
Central.
she walks up holding a glass of like juice or something, and just the way she's holding it, you
know what's about to happen.
What it's going to be
And
thrown
she
in his
dumps
face.
it on him and says, "I hate that article you wrote about me."
Yeah.
'Cause apparently Travolta interviewed her and did not portray her in a flattering light.
And this is to set up John Travolta's methodologies as a reporter.
Yes.
That he'll pull you in, he'll gain your trust, and then he'll just
What is that? What's that? The editor says. He says,
he does say something.
treat him like your girlfriend, but then forget they have a mother when you're writing the piece.
Yeah,
Something like that.
Yeah.
I forget what the first part is, but the second part is when you're writing the piece, forget they have a mother.
Forget they have a mother. Yeah.
And just write the truth, however brutal it is.
Right. Yeah. So it's at that point when he throws in, because he's getting the idea. It's pretty early in the movie when he gets the idea of the aerobics class thing.
Yeah.
And that's when it's like before the juice gets thrown on him, when he pitches that to his editor, and it's like, I want to do like an aerobics class thing.
He's like, they're the singles bars of the 80s.
And they're like cool with it right away.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, sure, we
They're
trust
like,
you.
yeah, I mean, you're doing this high profile case on Joseph McKenzie. Just go on Rolling Stone's dime, just fly to LA whenever you want.
He's like, I got to go to LA to see Mackenzie's court case, so I might as well while I'm there just go to an aerobics bar. And
when it comes to these films about like reporters, I'm always fascinated about how they budget for travel, because it's like in movies it just seems like they have any hotel,
infinite money,
and flights at their disposal. Like, what? They're on the phone. They're like, what are you talking about? I'll be on the first red line there. And it's
Travolta goes to Morocco in this movie and then
he
immediately
does go
comes
to
back.
Morocco.
Yes.
Yeah.
He comes back literally hours later.
Yeah, so he can just go on a flight. Like, what if it was just, I just want one movie.
Yeah.
Where it's like,
Yeah, we don't have the money for that.
it's like, you have to be in LA. We got to pass this budget thing. It might be a week. It's like, so I'm going to be stuck in this hotel for a week. Also, I'm just recognizing you're wearing a Jar Jar Binks shirt.
Yes, I am. My best friend.
I'm just now recognizing that.
But
Are you calling me your best friend? Or are you calling Jar Jar
Jar
Binks?
Jar's my best friend. You're okay. So he flies to LA.
Okay. He flies to LA.
We goes to the Mackenzie court case, and Mackenzie's like, I'm not guilty. And then Travolta like looks at him.
And he writes a sign that says, how about that interview?
Yeah, because things aren't going well for him in this court.
Right.
Mackenzie leaves. And then Travolta's like, I'm in LA now, so I might as well just go to this aerobics class.
Yeah.
So he goes to the Sports Connection.
The Sports
Which is
Connection.
a real place.
Yep.
It was very popular in LA in the 80s.
Part of what the article is written about, right?
Yeah, the actual articles that this movie is based on by Aaron Latham, written by Aaron Latham, are set at the Sports Connection, a giant upscale athletic facility in West Los Angeles that also contains a restaurant and bar.
Let me ask you, Jeff, and I don't want to skip ahead too far, but I'm just now thinking of it now. In terms of the 30 minutes that could have been cut from this movie, which act do you think could have been used cutting the most?
Middle part of the movie.
You think's Act 2?
Around the 1 hour mark.
I'm just thinking about our discussions about Act 1 so far, and I'm recognizing nothing interesting happens until end of Act 1, beginning of Act 2. And then you're right, Act 2 in the middle and the end of Act 2 gets a little boring.
Yeah.
Act 3 is just not good.
There's a lot.
It's not that you can cut it.
There's a lot that could be changed in this movie.
Yes, Act 3 isn't long, it's just bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Act 3, it's not that you should cut Act 3,
Yeah.
it's that you should just make Act 3 better. But in
Yeah.
terms of what can be cut, I definitely agree. It's like middle and end of Act 2. But I'm just thinking as we're talking about the beginning of the movie, it's like, yeah, this is all boring
Yeah.
business.
There's a lot of setup going on.
Yeah, a lot of setup.
But he gets to the Sports Connection.
Yeah.
And he's getting a tour, and he's like, yeah, I want to write an article. And these people are like, we like articles.
We like publicity.
And he meets
Wow.
two girls, Linda and Sally,
Linda and Sally.
who are like big-time aerobics people.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to be perfect.
Their representation.
be perfect.
Perfect. The title.
Hey!
And so they're like the representation of like the crowd mindset
Yeah.
of going to an aerobics.
Yeah.
class.
And later they'll say that we frequented the singles bars entirely, like, and they're kind of essentially like the punch when Travolta's writing the cigar when he's punching down. They're kind of the subjects of that part of it.
Yeah,
They kind of like fit all the stereotypes you'd expect out of
Yeah.
a place like this.
exactly. Yeah.
And but then Travolta sees this girl, Jessie, who's teaching an aerobics
Enter
class.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Enter Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yep.
Who is doing some amazing aerobics work.
She's fantastic.
She is so fast at doing this stuff.
Just the art
Yeah.
form of aerobics
Yes.
instruction, beautiful. 10
Yes.
out of 10.
Apparently she trained for like 6 months.
Yeah, I guess I read a trivia piece in IMDb that said like towards the end of the movie, she like noticeably lost a lot of weight because of like as they shot it, like it was
Yeah.
just so much physicality to it that she looks like notably thinner and smaller in the movie, which I didn't even notice. Like I didn't notice personally, but I guess like, you know,
It says she trained for several months before shooting began. All the scenes that showed her leading classes were filmed first.
yeah,
So they filmed all of like her aerobic stuff at the beginning of the movie, so she
Mm-hmm.
didn't have to keep working out and doing that for the remainder of the shoot.
it's like when they filmed the fight scenes in Rocky first, so
Yeah.
it's like the most,
He's most buff.
yeah, or in Captain America.
You know you can spend the rest of the movie just chilling out eating Cheetos in
Chill
the
out
trailer.
eating Cheetos in the trailer. Or like one of my favorite trivia facts of like actors working out and doing their physical scenes first is Captain America Winter Soldier. The scene when he has to like pull the helicopter back,
Yeah,
they shot
that's
that
Civil
first
War.
because is that Civil War?
Yes, that's a war.
Oh yeah, I guess it is Civil War. I'm mistaken. So yeah, in Civil War when he's like pulling the helicopter rod or the
He's
helicopter
huge. He's like a tank.
back to the landing pad and you see that massive bicep the size of Jupiter's moon. It's just like, oh man,
Yeah.
he's so buff. And then yeah, he loses weight in the rest
Yeah.
of the movie because he's sweating in the suit.
Yes.
You could almost say he's perfect in that film.
Yes. Chris Evans is perfect. And you know what else is perfect? The
Jamie
scene
Lee-
in the movie.
The scene of the movie.
Jamie Lee Curtis she's fantastic in this movie.
She's great.
She's really going for
She's
it.
awesome.
Travolta's immediately transfixed.
Yeah.
He's like, this is cool. I want to talk to her.
And transfixed on her sexually as well.
Yes, he's very invested in her.
Yeah.
And so he waits for her class to be done. Starts talking to her, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm a reporter," and she immediately just shuts down.
I
She's
also,
like, no, he's a reporter.
just something
I'm
that
not
I wrote down that I forgot to mention is as he's watching the instructor, Jamie Lee Curtis, there's a lot of these moments when they stay on these scenes for an awkward amount of time.
Yeah, you could probably cut like 10 minutes of this movie just by making all the workout scenes shorter.
Yeah, and this is the first one.
Yeah.
Where it's like he's watching for a very long time.
Yeah, it's literally just a shot, like a wide shot of her doing all the aerobic stuff, cut to a shot of him looking.
For 30
Yeah.
seconds.
And then there's no variations, it's just these same two
Yep.
shots back and forth.
Yep. There's no more engagement behind that. It's literally just Jamie Lee Curtis working out, John Travolta watching
Yes.
for 30 seconds, which doesn't sound long, but in the context of the movie is long.
I know it's very impressive work that she's doing, but we don't need to see it for that long.
We get it. We understand.
the point.
Move on.
Yeah.
So
It's not
anyway,
like
yeah.
Saturday Night Fever where you have to see the whole dance move. You
Right.
kind of get the gist of the aerobics move
Right,
within a few seconds.
Yeah. Right. So that's when she's walking out.
Yeah, but she's like, no, I'm not talking to a reporter. And then he will not stop.
He won.
He will not stop.
You're getting a boy in the plastic bubble vibes. Jeff?
Yes, there's a montage of him just like coming up to her and be like, so will you let me interview you now?
Yeah, he's very persistent, which I guess
She's
is
like-
fit to the character.
And she's
though.
like, no. And then she's in the locker room and he pops in. He's like, how about now? And then he's at his car and he's like, how about now?
yeah.
He's like in the bathroom. He like slides under the stall. He's like, how about now?
this does not happen. Jeff, this does not
She
happen.
goes home and opens her door and he's in her apartment. How about now?
She okay, and then what happens after that is it cuts to a scene. She's getting in bed and she's falling asleep, and then she hears like a scuffle around the door, outside the door, and she gets really nervous. So she turns the light on and she gets out of bed. She opens the door, nobody's there.
She turns back. He's in her bed.
God damn it, Jeff.
But no.
None of that happens in the movie.
Yeah, that all happens in the movie. Absolutely, you should watch the movie and find out.
Okay.
See that it's crazy. I don't know how he got in there so fast.
Yeah, it was. This movie really is
But
like a stalker film.
He will literally not let her like go until he finally like jumps her car.
She wakes up chained in a basement.
And he's like, I interview me now.
And she just starts recording.
Yeah, but no.
No.
Her car like won't start.
Well, she fills in some context of like, I've been burned before. I'm not going to be burned again.
Yes.
And that's like the peak behind her backstory that we get later. We get later.
And he jumps her car, and then he's like, all right, I jumped your car. Go to coffee with me?
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, if you will stop following me.
An off the record lunch.
If you will stop clambering into my window.
Yeah.
So they go out to coffee together.
Jeff's playing footsie with me, by the way.
Yes, I am. But they go to coffee together. And Travolta essentially starts pitching his idea for this story.
Yeah.
Which is very different than the one he started before.
Right.
He gives like the most Reagan era speech about self-reliance I've ever heard in a movie.
Yep.
He's like, you know, you can't trust the government for anything anymore. You can't trust anything. So, you know, to me, the ability of self-control and self-reliance is the most all-American thing you can do.
Right.
And as to me, he's talking about it's like Emersonian and Ralph Waldo Emerson, all this crazy stuff. And he's like, you know, self-reliance in the modern day is the bastion of this. What's more all-American than a gym? And she's like, oh, wow, this guy actually doesn't want to write a fluff piece. She's right going for it.
Yeah.
And she's like, all right, maybe I'll let you interview me, but no, not now.
Right.
And he's like, how about now? And she's like, I was getting to like you, but I'm still not ready yet.
Yeah, because that's when they go back to the aerobics class, and she's asking him to join a class.
Yeah.
And he says, well, maybe if I join a class, how about you let me interview you?
She's like, I was starting to like
I
you.
was starting to like you. Still no.
And then we cut back to the McKenzie storyline.
Yes.
McKenzie calls him, and actually, wait, no, that doesn't happen. First,
I think so.
no, first they sleep together,
No,
and he gets the call that he needs to go to interview McKenzie.
I thought he goes to the strip club after the aerobics one.
Oh yeah, he does.
Because he interviews a stripper.
Yes, so he goes to a strip club.
Yeah. And he writes down like something about talk to me about.
Yeah, I need to
McKenzie.
interview you about McKenzie. And
Yeah.
he like instead of like throwing the dollar onto the strip board or whatever it's called, the runway.
You put it on the G string, Jeff.
Yeah, and then he
Have you ever been to a strip club before? As I asked with your girlfriend sitting right behind you.
No, he throws the paper up there,
Yeah.
and it says like interview me.
Yeah.
Come to an interview.
Yeah.
And then there's this guy in the corner like staring him down.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, there are some like elements of him being followed that don't get really.
Yeah, they don't really talk.
They don't really talk about it.
There's
They
a lot
don't
of
really, and they don't finalize that. They just like introduce that he might be getting followed.
This movie's a little jarring in how it jumps from kind of this conspiracy thriller about a communist sympathizing drug dealer, and also, you know, he's in aerobics class and falling in love.
He was falling in love with an aerobics instructor. Yeah.
It's like a weird mix of Blowout and
Yeah.
Two of a Kind.
And so, yeah, I think he interviews the stripper, and then he goes to Jesse's class.
Yes.
Waits for her to come out, and is like, "Oh, Jesse, like I was wondering, if you wanted to like maybe talk about more about something."
Yeah.
He doesn't say he wants to interview.
No,
And-
there's a really good cut. There's a really good cut.
Yes, I wrote that down too.
Yeah,
It's not quite a match cut.
Yeah, because
It's like a
they're standing
cutaway.
in the gym, and she's looking at him,
And
talking to him.
they
Cuts
use
to
these
him.
over the shoulders of them
over the shoulder to him at the gym.
Of the gym in the background.
And he's
yeah.
like, you want to come back and recharge batteries at my place? And then it cuts, and it's the exact same shot we had of her before, but this time she's in his apartment.
the background change, and it's his apartment.
Really good cut.
It's
really
amazing transition.
There's too much good in this movie for it to be like brushed aside.
Yeah,
There's genuinely
a lot of that.
There's interesting filmmaking tricks. There's interesting ideas. I don't think it fully works, but I cannot ignore this movie
Yeah.
because there's some cool stuff in it.
And we talked about some of scenes that drag on for too long, but it's important to note that there are some long, drawn out scenes that
They're
work.
good, yeah.
That are good. We'll get to those eventually, but like that, and I think we're about to get to one actually.
Yeah.
Which is like the wanna fuck.
That is a great scene.
That's a drawn out one that works.
But now we're in his apartment.
Yeah.
And there's just chatting.
And she said, I read some of your stories and she liked his writing, which
you
to
seem-
me, it's like, what?
You seem like a real deal. Because, you know, he writes hard-hitting pieces about drug magnets and all that.
Right.
But she's like, oh, is this a computer?
Oh, yeah.
And
We
he's
have
like,
a 1985 version of a computer,
yes.
kiddos.
It pretty much looks like the computers from the Fallout games.
Yeah.
It's like
basically.
Where it's like a green screen and like 2 words.
Is it like a laptop?
Yeah, it's like an old CRT computer.
I didn't even know they had laptops back then.
It's not really a laptop. It's kind of just like a screen with a keyboard.
Yeah.
But he has a computer, and it's funny. Did you see what one of the like folders he had on it was called?
What?
It was called New Saturday Night, which is what the article that Center Fever is based on.
Oh, wow.
Saturday Night.
Look at that. Look at that.
It's fun. But Center Fever movie we covered. You should listen to that episode.
It's a good episode.
A good episode. But he starts typing something on it. He types a question. I can't remember what it was. But he types something out.
Well, you let me interview you or something like that?
Yeah.
Or...
And, oh no, he says, I give up, you win.
Well, you missed what she wrote.
What does she write first?
Well, she writes first.
No, that's the last thing that gets written. And then they stare at each other and they do it.
No.
Yes.
The way it works is she types something and then it's like something backspace, and then just types wanna fuck.
No, that's the last thing that gets typed.
No, I promise you it's not. Because I
absolutely
wrote it
is.
down. It's like wanna fuck, and then he looks to her and says, I don't really think I should do that because you're my subject and I can't be objective. And then she looks back and is like, well, good thing I'm not your subject.
And then they just start doing it.
And then he types in the computer, all right, I give in.
Is that after, really?
Yeah, I promise.
Okay, well.
And so then they're about to do it. They go to his bedroom. They're about to undress. And then he gets a phone call
From Joseph McKenzie's public relations officer.
So they don't have sex quite
Yes.
yet. It's like, they're like, well, we'll get back to this.
Yes, we will return to this.
We will return to this.
Yes.
But he gets that call from Joseph McKenzie.
And he's like, I got to go interview this guy.
And he gets a red line plane right away.
And he flies right to New York.
Yeah.
And he's rushing through JFK. He's like, I got to get to the atrium at 12 o'clock. I'm meeting him.
Yeah.
He calls his editor and he's like, I'm doing it finally.
We got the interview.
And so he gets there and the photographer's there, Frankie. And she's like, I got to take pictures of this guy. And Troll's like, no, I said I was coming alone.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, I'm getting pictures. And so he kind of like steals her camera and like brushes her aside. And then he grabs Mackenzie's PR rep and is walking with him. And he gets into a limo. And you think some shady stuff might be about to go down. But no.
Yeah.
Joseph McKenzie's just in there and he's ready to chat.
This is like, because it's dragging on, this McKenzie story is dragging on so long in this film, I wrote down, why is this important?
Yeah.
Because I still don't have like a connection of like, where is this going to pay off at the end of the movie quite yet? And to me, it felt like a B plot, but it's a big B plot.
Yes.
So I was like, this one, I'm like, man, this must have a direction if they're focusing on this big story for so long.
Yeah.
But I was so confused why.
But, and he rides with Mackenzie for 3 hours and he records the whole thing on a tape.
And this is not in the movie. This is like, because we just get the beginning and then the aftermath.
That is the side movie in which it's just the 3 hours of them in the car together.
There's a director's cut with that 3 hours involved.
Yeah, it's a 6 hour movie. Yeah. Snyder cut who?
I didn't watch that. Did you?
I have not had 4 hours of my life to commit yet to
this. Is it 4 hours?
It's 4 hours long.
Jesus Christ, Zach.
Yes. It is.
All right.
Batman does full frontal in it. It's the edgiest movie you'll ever see.
Anyway,
but yes.
So it cuts to back at the Rolling Stone main office.
Yeah, and he's like,
he's with his editor, but he's also with, they're not lawyers, they're like publishers.
No, first he writes the article.
Yeah.
And he types it all up based on the tape that he did, and he sends it off late at night.
Yeah.
And then he gets a call the next morning. You need to come in.
Yeah.
We have some cuts and notes that need to be done. Mm-hmm. So Travolta walks in, and he gets there, and there's 2 lawyers and his editor, Mark.
What minute mark are we at in this movie?
The 40-minute mark, or something like that.
Yeah, we're like not even halfway through this movie yet. That's the thing, like, because my notes got a little sparse because I'm like, Jesus, film is so long.
Yes.
It's so long, and I lose focus so many times.
We've watched longer movies, but this feels longer than all of them.
Yes. Yeah, it definitely does. So then he goes to the headquarters, talk about the cuts in his story. And
they're going to cut out a bunch of stuff that can't be like independently verified without Rolling Stone listening and possessing the tapes.
At which he says, I made an agreement with Joseph McKenzie. Only I have the tapes. I can't hand it over to you. So if a prosecution decides to sue, they can't compel you to give over the tapes. A lot of First Amendment stuff in this.
Yeah, and they're like, no, we should hold on the tapes to keep you unliable. And also, if we get sued, we have, something to protect us.
Yeah.
And
he's
Troll's like,
rejecting
no, I'm not doing it.
Journalistic standards.
Yes, and his editor's like, I don't know if we can print this story if we don't have those tapes.
Yeah, because John walks out.
Yes,
and then
he's like, no, I'll
it's just
quit.
the editor, and they're like, you have a big decision to make.
Yeah, it's a big thing about it's in a lot of journalism movies. You know, do we print the truth or face a lawsuit? It's like it's what the Post is all about.
Yeah, basically. It's when Steven Spielberg went into his political movie phase.
The objectivity of journalism
Yeah.
and what role the journalist has in society, and what responsibility does the journalist hold to telling the truth and
The
keeping.
Fourth Estate.
That's the Fourth Estate.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey. Media law.
Yeah, media law. The Fourth Estate. And this movie's kind of about that. Not so much as a movie like The Post, but it's kind of about it.
Post is kind of a boring movie.
I love The Post.
Yeah.
The Post fucking.
It's all right.
The Post is like a 5-star movie.
Great.
It
I'm
wins.
glad. You rated that above E.T. in your
did.
Steven Spielberg. I want everybody to know this from our podcast. Jeff ranked Steven Spielberg movies, and he put The Post over E.T.
And I do it, and I fucking do it again.
I'm counting the number of seconds of silence I want in for this because I just want the audience to process what you just said.
Yeah, I do it again. But yes, this is when I made a note. This is an extremely weird movie. Half aerobics video, half conspiracy thriller.
Yeah. So after that, he goes back to LA for the fitness club story.
And they decide they're going to go to print.
And
they're gonna-
this is when he's walking to the airport and there's a dude that's following him. And this is like the first introduction of he might be getting followed.
And his editor calls him the next day and is like, yeah, we're going to print the story. No cuts. You hold onto the tapes.
And he
But
says,
it's on you.
You need to watch yourself or something like that.
He's like, we got a call. You need to watch yourself.
Yeah.
Joel's like, oh, okay. And he's getting followed at the airport.
Never comes back, though.
Never comes back.
Yeah.
I mean, he does get slugged later by the guy who was at the
strip club?
Yeah, the strip club.
Yeah, that was the stripper's husband.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a funny bit.
Yeah.
But
So then it's when him and Jesse,
yes, him and Jesse, they do the deed.
he's like, where were we?
Yeah.
And then they do the deed.
Yeah. And they go on a trip.
Oh, wait. You missed the aerobics class.
What about it?
After the bed scene, he does an aerobics class with Jesse.
Oh, yeah. And it really tires him out.
And it goes on for a while.
It's like 5 minutes.
I wrote down like the shorts though.
Yeah.
The shorts that he's wearing, so much thigh.
Yes.
Like we might have to introduce a new segment called
The thigh
rating. The thigh ranking, because his thighs in this, mighty fine.
Yes. Look,
Mighty fine thighs.
all I'm saying is that 70s age Travolta, he can get it.
I like 30-year-old Travolta more than 20-year-old Travolta.
80s Travolta can get it, he can take it, he can have it any way he wants.
Any way he
Sliced or diced.
And then I wrote down, this doesn't end, ... make it stop.
It's like a 5-minute long scene.
It goes forever. And then it's like, that felt like 2 hours long when it was
It
over.
felt like I was in the workout with them. It was like,
He does a bunch of gyrating motions.
like you're
and
like, okay,
his junk is flopping around.
there's something changing. And
They
then
start having sex in the middle of the class.
it's like 3 shots for this whole scene.
It turns into a giant orgy.
Yes.
All that happens.
Yeah, people die. It's crazy. It's like, did you see the movie Mother?
Yes.
Where like all the people just show up that keep showing up at the house. It's like
That's
it's like that. They're all in this aerobics class.
They eat a child.
Yeah. And then Ed Harris pops in. He's like, "Arr!" No.
Yeah. All that happens. So then they
absolutely
go,
happens.
they take a trip.
Yeah. Well, first she takes him to like her mother's house or like a commune house.
I
it's
was
very
confused
ill-defined about what
that.
this house is.
I was very confused about what that place was.
But Jesse's mom is there.
yes.
And there's actually a really good bit of acting here.
Oh, yeah.
Her mom has an accent, like kind of a southern accent.
Okay.
And when Jamie Lee Curtis talks to her mom, she puts on a bit of an accent.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
And so it's kind of that thing where like someone will leave the place where they came from
Yeah.
and lose their accent, but then when they're home or they're talking to someone from home, a little bit of that accent comes back out.
Oh, Jeff, I do this. I was just back at my home state, Indiana, and I swear, like, as soon as I showed up, I'm like, well, how you folks doing there? Getting a corn in the cob and some cornhole? Yeah. And now I'm back here and I talk normal.
Yeah, I'm sure you turned into a regular old like farmhand. You were there.
I'm sorry to all my Indiana folks. I think we just alienated them.
Yeah, so we've crossed another state off the list of people who cannot listen to our show.
You know what? You know what's good about Indiana, though?
Nothing.
They don't fucking eat White Castle. Because fuck White
Yeah, and
Castle.
there's also no Australians there.
Fuck White Castle. Have I told you how much I hate White Castle?
You talk
Jeff?
about it a lot.
I really hate White Castle.
I've never had White Castle.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Don't.
Yes.
So anyway,
Yes. So the scene, in the amount of time we've been talking, the scene is still actually playing.
yeah.
I never finished watching this movie because the scene is still playing on my TV at home. I'm just waiting for it to end.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah.
The acting is good in this scene.
So they go to her house or whatever it is. Her
And-
accent comes out a little. Very
Yeah.
good bit of acting.
yeah.
The mom drops like, "Oh yeah, that last reporter you talked
You talked
really
to
screwed you
really
over."
screwed you over.
And Troll's like, "Oh, other reporter."
Well, it's like his, and I do see this in a lot of movies that have reporters that their personalities are always very intrusive. Like
Yeah.
as soon as they get a little bit of information, even if it has nothing to do
Yeah.
with what they're writing about, what their job is, they're just people who end up becoming reporters have this innate personality of intrusiveness.
Yeah.
Where they want to just know everything.
Yes.
Like if you say, like if there's three of us in this room right now with Becca, and if like you two talked about, you remember that thing that happened Saturday? If I was somebody who wanted to be a reporter, I'd be like, tell me what happened, what happened, and that's like
You're always fishing for the next scoop,
exactly,
the next detail.
yeah, and that's what John Travolta does here.
Yeah, and he pries, and she finally tells him the story.
Yeah,
She was a Olympic swimmer,
yeah,
and Carter canceled America's involvement in the Summer Games
to
that year.
protest the Soviet Union.
They protest the Soviet Union.
Yeah, and she was against it,
And she was against it, and she was outspoken.
very vocal about it.
And so they're writing about her, and then she had an affair with her
coach. Yeah,
And instead of writing about her political beliefs, they wrote about her having an affair with the coach.
yeah,
Ruined the coach's career,
yep,
also ruined her future,
yeah.
which is why she had to
Really-
get into aerobics instructor.
Really damaged her family.
Yeah.
And they had a long road coming back from
Yeah.
that.
And she's like, she finally recovered. She's finally doing something again with her life.
But in conclusion to all of this, just know that Jamie Lee Curtis in this movie is a communist.
Yeah, communist apparently.
She's a communist.
Yeah,
No, I don't know if she is or not, but
maybe. Who knows?
but yeah, that's why she doesn't really trust reporters.
She's into that communal living lifestyle.
Yeah.
So
then
abuse.
after that, like that's when they go to Mammoth State Park.
Yeah, they go to Mammoth State Park. No mammoths are to be seen in this movie.
Ever been to Mammoth State Park?
No,
I haven't been.
I've
but
also
I've
never
heard it's
seen
beautiful.
a mammoth.
Well, yeah, they're extinct.
I mean, I have seen Ice Age.
That's an animated mammoth,
He's real.
voiced by Ray Romano.
He's real, and you can't tell me otherwise. Are you telling me Sid's not real too?
I have news for you, Jeff.
What? What about Diego?
I like Diego. Who voiced Diego at Ice Age?
I'm from Dennis Leary.
Dennis Leary.
Yeah,
Great job.
yeah. Good job, Dennis.
That
Leary.
was a good.
Good job, Ray Romano. Good job,
Diego-
John Leguizamo.
What?
John Leguizamo is Sid the Sloth.
He's Sid.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
The first one of the season.
Can you do the rest of the podcast?
Sid.
So they go to.
Go to Mammoth State Park.
Oh God! All three of us are going to start talking with.
Here's a shit show. Sid, you can't throw. That was my Ray Romano. It was not
Oh
good.
no! Come on, man.
They do this every year.
Oh fuck
Sorry, I
me!
had to chime in there. You don't just mention Sid the Sloth.
this is now Sidcast.
This is now the Sidcast.
What if we did just spend the rest of us talking about Ice Age, and then when this episode comes out, we change all of our podcast stuff on Spotify, but it just says Sidcast. Anyway,
There are 100 Ice Age movies.
There's like 5 at least.
let's do Ice Age minute by minute.
Because isn't there a squirrel spin-off one?
No, there's a squirrel spin-off TV show.
It's just called. Oh, there's a TV show.
I think it's a TV show.
I thought it was a rated R version like Logan, but they just called it Squirrel.
Call it Sid. Scrat.
Sid wakes up drunk in an Ice Age parking lot and his tires are getting looted, and so he goes on ape shit crazy and kills.
Are you aware that by Ice Age 5 there were aliens involved in the
What?
There's like an alien abduction subplot.
Get out of the air. Wow.
There's 5 Ice Age movies. They're working on the 6th one right now.
Do you remember there was a meme period when it was all about that baby?
The baby from Ice Age.
Oh, God.
Also, shout out Josh Peck still getting work being in these Ice Age movies.
Josh Peck is in it?
He's one of the lemurs or whatever the hell they are.
Were lemurs in the Ice Age?
No, it's like
The possum.
The possums, that's it.
Yeah. Who was the other lemur? It wasn't Drake.
Sean William Scott.
It wasn't Drake. That's a very missed opportunity with casting. You cast Drake and Josh as the 2 possums. Oh my goodness.
It would have been
would have been the same period too, right? It
Yeah.
would have been the same period.
The first actually came out in 2002, and the most recent one's coming out in 2 years in 2022.
What's it called?
Ice Age: The Adventures of Buck Wild.
You're making it up.
I'm not. It's right here.
What is it?
Ice Age: Adventures of Buck Wild. Simon Pegg is coming back as Buck Wild. There's been Ice Age the Meltdown, Ice Age Dawn of the Dinosaurs, Ice Age Continental Drift.
Dawn of the Dinosaurs. There's a dinosaur one.
Yeah, it's where they find a hidden world of dinosaurs underneath the ice. There's Ice Age Continental Drift, which is the pirate one. Whoa. Where they find pirates on the high seas that they're trapped on an iceberg. And
We straight up talked
Ice
about
Age Collision Course.
Ice Age for 5 minutes.
Have you read the story about the walrus who woke up in Ireland?
Yes, we talked about that on the last
Did we?
podcast with Blowout.
No, it definitely did not talk about it in Blow. It only came out last week.
I'm pretty sure we did talk about it though.
Anyway, but it's this.
Where the fuck are we? Oh wait, no, we didn't talk about it on the podcast. I was over at your guys' apartment and we talked about it when Adam Campbell was there. Our good friend Adam Campbell.
He will be on Phenomenon.
He will be on the
But
Phenomenon
anyway,
episode.
so if you folks listen and haven't heard, this is divergent, but it relates to Ice Age Continental Drift.
Which is not related to the episode we're talking
But
about.
there's a walrus in the Arctic.
I thought it was South America.
No, it was the Arctic.
It was the Arctic?
Yeah. And he's just falling asleep. He's like sleeping on his like iceberg. The thing breaks off while he's asleep. Dude wakes up in Ireland.
Where the fuck are we?
He's like, just imagine being this walrus and you just fall asleep at home. And then you wake up and you're in Ireland.
And you're in Ireland.
He's on the beach and they're like, oh my God, how'd I get here?
A fucking walrus.
Yes.
A fucking walrus.
And it's the first time a walrus has ever been in Ireland. Crazy. He should be the star of Ice Age 6, not Adventures of Buck Wild.
I think that walrus is going to get a spin-off movie.
He should.
It's going to be directed by Steven Spielberg called The Adventures of Tusk.
Yeah. Tusk 2. Of no related to
Kevin Smith.
the Kevin Smith horror movie.
Kevin Smith, we call you out.
You have to make Tusk 2 about this
You have
walrus.
to make Tusk 2 about this walrus.
Have you seen Tusk?
I've seen Tusk. What a fucked up movie.
Turn the guy into a walrus. Stuart. They turn him into a walrus.
And you know what's the crazy part?
What?
They leave him as a
He's
walrus.
turned.
They don't kill him or turn him back. They say, Justin Long, that's who he is.
Yeah,
they leave Justin Long. Legend has it that Justin Long is still there.
That's why he hasn't been in any
screaming his
movies.
lugs out, painfully asking to be put down, and nobody is doing
That's
it.
why he hasn't been in any movies recently, because he's
Still in the walrus costume on.
No, not the costume. They actually changed him into a walrus.
They did change him into a walrus, and he's still. Rest in peace, Justin
Yeah,
Long.
he's dead. Sorry, Justin Long.
Sorry, Justin Long.
But
if
your
you're
recent
listening
passing awayness.
to this. I would love to have Walrus Justin Long on this podcast,
Walrus Justin Long, come on the show.
and I would just love to ask.
You know
him
who
his
else should
thoughts.
come on? Sid the Sloth. Come on the podcast, Sid.
Well, here's the thing. So, what do we call Walrus Justin Long?
Wallong.
Next.
Wallong.
Justice.
Justice Wallong.
I'm not feeling any of these.
This is the name. That's canon. It's the name. Justice Wallong. Come on the show.
But when he does, because doesn't he cut out his vocal cords?
Yes.
So he's gonna be like, "So, what'd you think of the movie?"
It's gonna be. I was gonna say we could.
He's gonna be like,
I was gonna say we could do it Stephen Hawking style.
"Oh,
He's like the computer void thing. Yeah.
I don't think he could fit through my door."
We'll get him in.
You seem very confident with
We'll
that.
get him in.
We'll get him in.
We'll make it work.
How are we gonna drive him through Andersonville, Chicago?
We'll go to him. We'll go to him.
We gotta rent a pickup truck.
We'll go to him.
We do have a mobile setup.
Yes. We'll go to you
Kill a
swallow.
human though.
It's fine.
It's
fine.
a savage walrus.
It's fine if he's a big fan of Get Shorty, we'll have him on.
Do you think he is?
I hope he is.
You know, he was originally a podcaster.
Yeah,
The character Justin Long.
yeah, I know. It's a movie about podcasters who turn into walruses, and then Johnny Depp plays an investigator named Guy Lapointe.
Do you think that's metaphorical for what's going to happen to us, Jeff?
Yeah, we're gonna turn into walruses, and then Johnny Depp's gonna investigate us. So
If
we're gonna say,
you and
no, get
I-
away from me.
If you and I okay, so here's the scene. You and I, we're in 2000s Travolta era, and we're running dry on guest. Okay? We're desperate for a guest.
You are aware we have like all of the 2000s booked already.
So now hear me out. All right, then the 2010s. Okay.
Okay.
So we're in the 2010s John Travolta, and we're dying to have a guest on. We got to have somebody, right? So then what do? We drive up to Canada. And our initial guest drops out. So we just have to find some random person.
So we get the walrus guy.
So we get the walrus guy. And then he offers us some coffee, some water, and we start talking about the movie.
Next thing you know, we turn into walruses.
If that happens, Jeff, just kill me.
Yes.
And I will try to kill you, but one of us is going to have to stay alive. Because I don't think we can equally kill
I'll
each
stab
other.
myself with my own tusks. It's fine.
You'll just...
Yeah. It'll be quick and easy.
I'm mimicking like a walrus move of like suicide.
You know what that would be?
What would that be?
That would be perfect.
Nice.
Yes. I can't believe I'm the one who had to guess back.
So I want to let you know that we started going off that track at the 50-minute mark. We have just crossed the hour mark.
Okay,
So
cool.
we straight up did 10 minutes of just
Ice Age.
Ice Age
Good.
and Tusk.
Yes. Good movies.
All right.
All 5 of them.
That was a
Watch 'em
perfect conversation, Jeff.
Yes.
You know what else is perfect?
Not this movie. But
Not this movie that we were initially
You know what this
talking
movie is? It's pretty okay. That should be the title of this movie. Pretty
It's
okay.
Pretty okay. Where were we? Oh, the aerobic dance.
Yeah, they're at Mammoth State Park.
They go to Mammoth State Park.
They're at Mammoth State Park and they're skiing, and Travolta's in a lot of pain because of his aerobics.
of
Actually,
his
he's like, I
aerobics
can't
class.
move.
I can't move.
And so the two of them are sunbathing in the cold. It's weird.
Yeah, they're at Mammoth
it's
State
kind of
Park,
odd.
which is like up north, I think.
Yeah, there's literally snow on the ground and they're sunbathing.
So they
A little strange.
California's weird climate-wise, but yeah, I would imagine it's cold over
Yeah, I
there.
imagine it's still pretty cold. And she finally agrees to let him interview her. Mm-hmm. She's like, I like you. If you feel honest, interview me.
Oh, we missed. There's another great shot in this when after the Jesse's parents, when we cut to Mammoth State Park.
Yeah.
There's a great shot of like Mammoth State Park, but it turns out it's a reflection of a window.
Yeah.
That Jesse opens.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Good bit.
Great bit.
Gordon Willis, you got it going on.
You got it.
But
But yeah, she agrees to let him interview, and
Yes.
it's at the same place where he interviews a couple, right?
a little later.
That's a little later,
He has not interviewed her yet.
right?
She agrees to let him do it. And then they drive home from Mammoth State Park. Mm-hmm. And she starts getting real honest with him.
Yeah.
And then she looks. He's been recording the whole conversation without asking her.
Big no.
Yep, he did not get her consent to record.
Yep.
And she's like, get out of the car. Get out of the
Legally,
car.
she could sue him.
Yes. And she kicks him out. Actually, it depends on what state you're in. There's some states that are only one-party consent states.
Right.
California might be one of them. Illinois is only one-party consent, so you can record someone.
Yeah. I'm recording you, and I did not get
I
your
could
consent.
I could say, hey, don't post this, and you could still do it.
Yeah.
And I could not sue you.
Yeah.
But she's like, no, get out. And she kicks him out of the car. Like, literally kicks him out. He falls out the door.
In the middle of nowhere.
In the middle of nowhere. And then she drives off. And then she stops on the road. You think it's about to be this, like, reconciliation scene where he runs
Like
down.
an urban cowboy when
Yeah.
she backs up. She's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
get
It
in!
literally happens in Urban Cowboy.
Yeah.
Same movie, same director.
It's like, get in!
Except instead of that,
She
she throws
throws
his
the bag
bags out the
out.
window and then keeps going.
Yep.
And so he has to run out his bags. She goes home and is like, and her mom's like, what happened? She's like, I don't want to talk about it. And so,
Yeah.
and then we cut to Travolta in the back of a pickup truck with a bunch of dogs.
Why are there a bunch of dogs?
Who knows?
Who knows?
He just gets picked up by a dog truck
Yep.
and drives him back to LA. And she won't talk to him. So he,
Oh, we missed the best line of the movie.
what?
So when she catches him recording, kicks him out, it's like, Jesse, stop. And she just yells, you're a sphincter muscle, Adam. And then kicks him out.
That was actually, while you didn't do the voice, you actually got a pretty good Jamie Lee Curtis inflection there.
Really?
Yeah, that sounded like how she does it.
You're a sphincter muscle, Adam.
Yeah. It's Jamie Lee Curtis inflection right there.
Yeah.
But he's upset about this.
Yeah.
Because she was his way of writing an interesting article. And he's lost it. And so he's just going to settle into writing the base, simple version of this article.
Yeah.
Which is he goes to Linda and Sally back at the Sports Connection and just asks them all the questions you would expect about a fluff piece. Where it's like, well, how does aerobics affect your sex lives? Why do you work out? Because you want to be perfect. Yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And Linda and he goes to a party with them, and he goes to a male strip club.
He's not a stripper. He's an exotic dancer. He makes that very clear.
Yeah. He's an exotic dancer, and don't you forget it.
Yeah.
And I can't remember which of them. The Linda and Sally business kind of loses me a little bit. This is where the movie I lost interest in. I think you could cut a lot of this out.
Yeah, I wrote down, I'm losing focus.
Yeah. It's not, I wrote that exact same thing down, funny enough. But this is where the movie kind of loses me a bit. I don't think we need it. We got the idea that he's settling into the base one without having to spend 15 minutes
of
him.
I think
just
we're a
making these
little
two,
over halfway through the movie, but...
It's pretty much just 5-10 minutes of character assassination on Linda and Sally.
And...
how they're vain, and Linda's getting married, but Sally's going to get plastic surgery because she doesn't think she's perfect. And Travolta's like, I can write about how this is indicative of the disillusion of our culture and how this is a vain place they're all at.
It's a shame because, honestly, speaking a little bit broader here, like, I think this movie could have been really good with small tweaks to the script.
Yeah.
I really do. I think this could have been a much better perceived movie if it had just been like tweaked a little bit. It wasn't far off. It was just like, again, the muddled messaging, the bunch of business, the length. I don't think it was that far off of being a good movie. And I think this is where parts of it that really hits at home, where it's like, there's just so much going on.
But the weird part about this is that I paused the movie at this point. Because I'm like, oh, we got to be near the end. We're only an hour and 8 minutes.
So I have another moment like that too. It's like, we're going to get there later, but it's when the story comes out about the health club. This is way later, but I'm with you on this. I check, this has to be the end of the movie. I pause it. There's 30 minutes left. And I'm like, the story came out of the health club, the main driver of the plot, and there's still 30 minutes left in the movie.
And there's a Mr. Smith goes to Washington. Where he's on trial for his beliefs and all that.
So, but there's a party. He's interviewing a bunch of people.
Yeah, there's, he tells his editor calls him at one point and is like, yeah, we posted the article. It's popping off. They want movie rights and book rights and all this stuff.
Yeah.
He's like, I need the piece on the aerobics called Tomorrow. And Travolta tells me, eat shit and die. And then his manager's like, you eat shit and die. And they hang up.
Yeah.
So that's the strip club scene's weird because Travolta, it's like another 5-minute long scene.
Too long.
Travolta spends the entire thing on the other side of like a crossed window. So you only see him in the shadow.
Yeah. He's silhouetted.
He's silhouetted. He's talking in, and it just cuts to him, and it cuts to this guy dancing.
I'm really losing focus at this point in the movie.
Very long scene.
Yeah.
And he pretty much just like roasts Linda and Sally in this article that he writes.
Yeah. So, and then there's...
And one of them says perfection is love or something.
Well, like did we miss the moment when Jesse comes over to his apartment?
That's right after this.
Okay. So, like... Yeah, he's like writing the article. It's got all this stuff in it. And then she comes over to his apartment. And
she's willing to give us another try.
Yeah, willing to give us another try. And that's when Eva, the photographer, comes over. Frankie. I think the actress' name is Eva.
Maybe.
But
I think he talks to her he talks to his manager on the phone first. Oh, no, Frankie comes. You're right.
Because she's prepping to take photos of the health club. So then she leaves. Jesse's still there, and they're talking, and then the phone rings.
Yeah, and Travolta grabs it, and
he talks
chatting
with his...
And Jesse goes over and looks at his computer.
Now, this is a perfect example of when a long, dragged-out moment works.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, exactly, because she sees the article, and she's like, I wonder what he wrote. I'm interested to read this.
Now, the only thing I will say against this is... While the effectiveness of it being long and dragged out works, there's something that doesn't work. Reading.
Yes.
There's a lot of reading on the screen. Yes. And I learned this. I'm going to pull out the... how do I want to phrase this? The pompous, narcissistic, asshole film school part of me right now.
Yeah, pulling out.
And say, like, one of the first rules of screenwriting is, like, don't force your audience to read a lot on screen. They basically make you read the entire
Unless it's
fucking
the
arc.
very opening of the movie, in which case Star Wars has you beat.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's engaging kind
Yeah.
of because it's like almost like
If you start the movie
it's a
off with a lot
prologue.
of context, it works.
yeah, it's like a prologue to get you up to speed. This is like she has
You're
to-
reading like a low res CRT screen.
and it's like the entire fucking article.
Yes.
And it's like it has like a paragraph on the screen, extreme close up, and it just stays there for 20 seconds. And
Then it scrolls.
what really bugged me about it is because it stays on that screen, it's like the directorial intention of that is, okay, we need to stay on this for long enough so the audience can read it.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, like I think many movies do this where it's like you get 3 seconds of a large paragraph
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, am I supposed to read this? And then smash in cut to key words.
Yes.
And that's what they should have done on this. But no, they stay 20 seconds on this paragraph, expecting you to read the full fucking thing.
And they keep doing it.
And they keep doing it. Lot of
But it
reading.
works because you see her reactions.
You do see her reaction.
And Jamie Clerc is a very good actress, and she knows how to play this slowly, methodically.
Yeah.
Of her just kind of losing her composure.
She's
and
not
saying-
overdoing it.
And seeing that he's doing to Linda and Sally the same thing that reporter did to
Yeah.
her all those years ago.
Yeah.
And she decides to not let it happen. She deletes the whole piece.
And the nonverbal transition that clicks in her brain when she decides to delete it.
Yeah.
Beautifully acted.
And she just hits the button and just watches everything disappear.
Share some of the legroom space, man.
And watches her delete. She deletes everything.
Yeah.
Travolta comes down. He's like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "I'm deleting everything. You're gonna ruin those girls' lives."
He doesn't freak out, which I guess it doesn't warrant freaking out because
Yeah.
it's like, I'll just write it.
Because
as a story.
honestly, he doesn't really want to write. He didn't want to write that story either. He just did it because he was kind of crestfallen that she wasn't gonna agree with it or go with his like more interesting one.
Right. Yeah.
Because he can't handle rejection.
He can't handle rejection.
Yeah. And she leaves. And he's like, whatever. And then Frankie goes to the sports club and takes a bunch of pictures of Linda and Sally and all these people there.
Well, you missed the part when he's like trying to follow Jesse out. And it's like, Jesse, like, come
Oh,
on.
yeah.
And then
The
they're at
husband of
pool.
the male
the
stripper
husband of the
runs up.
stripper punches him in the face.
Yeah, runs up, punches him in the
I
face.
told you to
slugs
leave
him in
her out
gut.
of the article.
Yeah, and then we never see him again.
That's it. Yep.
Because the McKenzie article came out and it mentions, the stripper's name.
Yeah.
And it actually causes a lot of like changes in the scene.
Yeah. Yeah. So he calls his editor and asks for more time.
And they're like, no.
Like, no, we need it by like tonight or
Yeah.
tomorrow morning.
And so he stays up all night and he writes this long piece because it was originally going to be called "Looking for Mr. Goodbody,"
Yeah.
because one of the girls says, "I used to think I was looking for Mr. Goodbar, and now I was looking for Mr. Goodbody."
Right. Yeah.
And his editor's like, "What the fuck is this?" Because the article's now called "Looking for Mr. Emerson," and the article starts off by being like, "I was originally going to write this fluff piece, but I have a more interesting thing about
Oh yeah, he
politics
changes his
and
mind.
how culture and society affects
Yeah.
and comes around this place, and I met this amazing
It's
person
not as,
there."
Not as damning to the health club.
It's this very honest piece. It's what he actually wanted to write.
Yeah.
And so I was like, "What the fuck? I can't post this."
Yeah.
It's like I can put this out on a major article. So they rewrite the whole thing. Still put Travolta's name on it. Mm-hmm. Travolta's not happy about this. And Frankie uses a picture of Jesse she took, a not flattering image
Yeah.
of her screaming.
Yeah.
And they find the old image of her with her coach and be like, yeah, one of the instructors here, she was having an affair with a coach in the Olympics.
Yeah, because wasn't it originally a Rolling Stone story that did that? So it was like they brought back up that story.
And so the article comes out. Travolta is sent to Morocco, so he's not there when it comes out.
It's at this point when I write down in all caps, "There's 30 minutes left."
Yes, of this movie.
Literally, like, I'm like, Jesus Christ, this movie doesn't end. I'm getting aggravated just talking about it because I'm literally like, geez, I want this movie to end.
Yes. Not a good thing to want about a movie.
Yeah, not a good thing. It was not a perfect thing at all.
It was not perfect.
Yeah.
But he's sent to Morocco. The article gets published. He gets a call from somebody about how pissed they are.
Yeah.
I can't remember who. I think it's Jesse. Jamie Lee Curtis.
I don't remember.
But someone's mad. And so he calls the proofreader at Rolling Stone and says, hey, can you read the article to me?
Yeah.
And he hears the first line. He's like, oh my God, they rewrote the article on me.
Yeah.
It's now like a complete character assassination of all these people.
Yeah.
So he abandons
flies
his
back.
interview in Morocco.
He flies back.
He flies back to
And there's
LA.
turbulence on the flight, which
Yeah.
is a callback to I'm good on flights as long as there's no turbulence.
Yeah.
Then I just get drunk.
Well, you see, there's turbulence on the plane, just as there's turbulence in his life.
I see you, James Bridges.
James Bridges, you burnt. He gets back. No one will talk to him. They're all pissed at him.
Yeah.
Understandably so. So he's back at the Sports Connection.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, you ruined us. You
Well-
attacked. Yeah. Oh, he goes there and they're like, yeah, no one's here. They're all at the benefit.
The Rolling Stone baseball bat thing.
Well, that's he goes to Sports Connection first, and then he goes to Rolling Stone. And he
don't
gets
think
arrested.
so. No, he goes to the Rolling Stone first and then goes to Sports Connection.
Okay. Well, he goes to the Rolling Stone offices, and he's just. This is actually a very good bit of Travolta.
Yeah.
He's just casually sauntering through the office. He looks a little frazzled.
And he's holding a baseball bat.
baseball bat. And everyone's like, "Oh, I wonder what this knucklehead's coming in here with a
Well,
baseball
like,
bat."
he
for."
walks it up to the front secretary, and she buzzes him in
Yeah.
without even asking.
He's like, "I need to see Mark." It's
And
funny
she's like,
that it's
"Okay."
especially funny that Mark is the actual editor of Rolling Stone.
Like, you think has this ever happened to Mark in real life before?
Probably.
You
This
think
is
a reporter
loosely
walked
based on
in?
truth.
I think a reporter walked in and like with a baseball bat and was like,
Also, I gotta give his actual name's like Janae or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to him for being willing to play himself in this, but also be an asshole in this. He's like kind of the bad guy in this.
yeah, and he doesn't do a bad job.
Yeah, he's willing to just like be like, yeah, even though in real life I appreciate what I do and think I have an importance. I want to be the bad guy in this movie. I'm fine with that.
right. He kind of he's very open to
Yeah,
it.
so I think that's cool.
Yeah.
And Travolta just walks into the office and shuts the door, and then you just hear. And hear him just swinging the bat around and destroying things.
Yeah.
Your glass shatter, and Mark's like, reach it and die. Oh, fire. Oh, don't hit me. All
Yeah.
this stuff. And then Travolta opens the door and walks out. And the guy's like, you're fired.
Fire.
It's like, no shit, he destroyed the studio.
yeah. I actually think I misled you. I think you were right that he does go to the
Yeah.
Sports Connection
How
first,
dare you?
and then goes to the magazine.
You are fired from this podcast.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, well, we're here already, so.
We're here already.
And then he locks eyes with Frankie, and Travolta just kind of sells the hurt and betrayal that she went behind his back, and like character assassinated this girl who he likes,
yeah.
and who he was hoping to write a flattering portrait of.
Mm-hmm.
And Frankie runs off, and we never see her again.
Well, we do see her again at the credits.
Oh yeah, in the credit.
We're going to talk about
we're gonna
that.
talk about the credits. And so Travolta either flies to LA or has gotten back from LA. He goes to the Sports Connection. There's no one there, and they're like, "Oh yeah, they're at a benefit right now."
Yeah.
So he goes to the benefit place.
Yeah. This is the bit that I'm talking about, where it's like you got to go to A, then B,
Yeah.
then C, then D.
He could have just gone there, and they could have been there.
Yep.
And he goes to like this benefit where Jamie Lee Curtis is leading like an aerobics class for charity,
Yeah.
and he's trying to like talk to her, and she wants none of him. She
Yeah.
wants none of this business.
And like, there's a bunch of other people that recognize him. That's like, "Hey, great article, man!" And they're mad at him.
And they're like, "How dare you?" It's like Sally's never gonna get over that.
"Yeah,
There's actually a really nice shot earlier when the article comes out of Sally, Jesse, and Linda
yeah,
sitting alone in this massive studio. They're really small in frame,
Yeah.
crying as they listen to it.
right."
It's really nice.
Yeah, it is a really nice shot.
But he finally gets up to Jesse, and she's like, "Nope, not talking to you, not talking to you."
And this is where you mentioned earlier, where it's like he won't let up.
Yeah, he will not
giving
stop.
an interview. And this is exactly the same.
He's like, "I didn't write this article," and she's like, "Your name's on it."
because like she's trying to like go to like the women's bathroom
Yeah.
and the locker room, and he's just like following her all the way through.
Yeah.
And like there are like naked women like
Yes.
running around like and he's just like, "Jesse,
And he's like,
Jesse,
"I gotta explain to you."
I gotta explain."
He's
and,
like,
and then two guys come in and they kick him out.
yeah, and they kick him out. And he gets arrested.
He gets subpoenaed.
Well, he gets subpoenaed to turn over the tapes
Yeah. He isn't quite arrested yet.
for the McKenzie, which has disappeared for like 30 minutes of this movie. He's now
yeah,
brought
this
back
comes
suddenly.
back. Yeah. So then there's a court scene.
He's brought to the courtroom.
Yeah.
And Jesse shows up at the courtroom,
Yeah, she like sees that he's standing by his journalistic
Yeah.
word.
and she goes there, and the judge and the prosecutor's like, "We want to find this man in contempt of court if he doesn't turn over those tapes."
Yeah.
And Joseph McKenzie gives him like a nod because he's like, "You're sick enough for me. You're a man of your word." And Joel's like, "I'll go to jail for my beliefs for the First Amendment." And he has like this real Mr. Smith Goes to Washington where he's like,
Yeah, right.
"I believe in journalistic standards," and all this stuff. And then he, fucks off.
They
to
take him to
prison.
jail.
He goes to prison.
And Jesse runs after him.
Because she's like, if he will stand up for journalistic standards and the First Amendment, then he was telling me the truth about not writing that article.
Quite the leap in logic
Yes, it
for
is
the audience.
Quite the jump.
Yeah, that's another muddling morality issue with this film. It's like, what is it trying to say? Because Jesse just like sees him. I mean, I guess like it's a noble act, but it's like it doesn't clear him.
There's two plot lines in this movie, and they do not fit together well.
No, they don't.
There are movies that do things like this, and it works really well.
Right.
Where you're having like kind of an austere like business plot line with a romance and something like that.
That you don't think is going to connect, and then they do.
Yeah, and they
connect
do,
at the end.
and like the themes work.
And this looks like an attempt to do that.
This is like trying to Frankenstein two movies together,
Right.
into one thing.
Yeah, and it doesn't really work.
Yeah, but anyway, Travolta goes to prison.
Mm-hmm.
Jesse like forgives him, and then he gets out of prison.
Yeah, the verdict for the McKenzie case is not guilty.
Yeah.
So they let Travolta out.
And he walks out and he sees her there.
And there's a bunch of reporters.
There's a bunch of reporters.
I'd do it again.
Yeah, he's like, I do it again.
I'd do it again.
And so he gets into a car with her. They
kiss.
drive off, and he says, "Where to now?" or something like that.
Where were we?
Where were we?
Which was recalling from
And
when they had sex.
then it fades to black and says credits. And that's the end of the movie.
Oh, but it's not.
It's not the end of the movie.
It's not the end of the movie.
And then it comes up with starring. And it starts listing all these names. Oh my god. My Wikipedia is still up to Ice Age.
Well,
switch
so
back for-
it's like all the cast,
Yeah.
but
It's like Mary Lou Henner as Sally, and it's like her
It
in an aerobics
shows-
class dancing.
yeah, it shows the actor like in this medium shot, like doing an aerobics class, looking right at the camera, smiling, and it's got their name and then their role under it.
And it's like Laurie Newman is Lindy,
And-
Ann DeSalvo is Frankie, Mary Lou Henner is Sally.
Yeah, they get the Rolling Stone folks in here. They get the
Stone.
photographer. They get the editor in here. Like the editor never did aerobics in this
Yes.
movie, and then the end they're like, we'll just throw the editor in the
And
aerobics
Jamie Lee
class.
Curtis really going for it. And then it ends with John Travolta standing there looking
There,
he looks
smiling.
He looks exhausted.
It's like that was the last thing they shot, and John's like, I'm just gonna
I'm not
smile.
doing it
I'm
again."
not doing it again. I'm just gonna smile, look at the camera, be handsome, and that's it.
Yeah, and then it fades to black.
And it fades to black, and it's credits.
Yeah, and pop music plays.
Pop music plays.
And that's the end of Perfect.
It wasn't.
Yes. This movie did not do great. It was a major box office failure. It temporarily derailed John Travolta's A-list career.
Yeah.
Or continued along the decline of it.
Yeah. It didn't bring him back.
He's now gone 3 for 3 in attempts to recapture the old magic that did not work.
And there's going to be a few more attempts
And
that
it
don't work.
And it's just sad because
Yeah.
Blowout was his best performance, his best movie. It didn't do well.
It got judged harshly for it.
And if he had, we've talked about this on like 3 episodes in a row now, so I'm not going to get back into it too much.
Yeah.
But if he had stuck with that, and this movie's kind of an attempt to get back to that serious performance.
And I think this is another Staying Alive moment where because it's a 19% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, this is a 19%. This
think
movie got
it's
nominated for
more-
3 Razzies for Worst Actor,
Bullshit.
Worst Supporting Actress
Bullshit.
for Sally,
Well, yeah.
and
Sally
Worst
wasn't really-
Screenplay, which no, this is not a great screenplay, but it's not
It's
the
not
worst.
fuck you, Razzies.
Yeah, the Razzies are bad.
John Travolta
officially.
wasn't horrible in this movie. He was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I think the strongest parts is Jamie Lee Curtis and John Travolta's chemistry
Yeah.
is good.
Yeah,
They have good chemistry.
Of our 3 most recent like Travolta movies, Staying Alive, Two of a Kind, and this was my favorite of the 3.
I would agree.
I thought
agree.
this had the makings of a good movie and just didn't live up to it.
All 3 of those, he has a love interest, and this love interest has been my favorite.
Yes, she's a very compelling character. It's just
Yes.
because Jamie Lee Curtis is a very compelling
Yes.
actress.
Yeah. And they do very well together.
Have you ever seen Blue Steel? Random
No.
aside. If you ever get a chance, watch the movie Blue Steel with Jamie Lee Curtis. She plays a cop. Amazing movie.
Yeah.
Another box office failure that like kind of derailed her movie star career. But had that movie been a success, we would have had so many great Jamie Lee Curtis action movies. I'm so sad it didn't.
Damn.
But anyway, watch Blue Steel if you listen to this. It's hard to find, but if you find it, it's well worth it.
Okay. Good to know.
But yes, this movie I enjoyed it. I gave it a 3 out of 5. It's a gentleman's 6.
I would say in the Rotten Tomato meter, I would put this at 40.
40?
40 flat.
I put it 60. I put it like right on the precipice
You
of.
would make it fresh.
I put it right on the precipice of fresh and rotten. I don't think
60 would be fresh.
Yes, it would be fresh.
So you would say it's fresh. I wouldn't say it's fresh. It definitely has its obvious issues
Yeah.
for me. I would not watch it a second time willingly.
Yeah, I think there's more ambition and interesting stuff in this that kind of pushes me over the finish line.
It definitely doesn't deserve a 19.
But you know who else likes this movie?
Who else likes it?
Quentin Tarantino.
Really?
He in 1994 interview with Rolling Stone, the subject of this movie.
Interesting.
Quentin Tarantino called the movie greatly underappreciated, in part due to Jamie Lee Curtis's performance.
Wow. I like that.
Tarantino is a defender of perfect. He thinks they're. I mean, I haven't found the rest. I don't know specifically what he likes about it, but to him, this is a more interesting movie than it is sold at, that it seems to be, which I agree with.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of cool stuff in here.
Yeah.
And it could have been a great movie with a few more passes of the screenplay.
Yeah.
And
Shorter runtime.
I think that part of the reason this movie got such terrible reception that it did is kind of there was a dogpile effect on Travolta around this time.
Yeah.
He's a popular punching bag.
That's sad.
Yeah, it's like, he had his time and people were like, oh, he's already washed up. And so it's easy to be like, another failure for
Kick him
Travolta.
while he's down.
I mean, we're doing the same thing in some respects. We're like, another failure for this guy, but at least we're hoping for
all these
quality.
I mean, Two of a Kind was a failure.
Yeah.
That was a bad movie.
Yeah, that was a bad movie.
But Staying Alive, I'm trying. What am I trying to say? Yes, it's going back to what you know, being comfortable,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it is still a risk.
Yeah. These are bad movies that, or at least some of them, have, they're trying at least.
They are trying.
And he's
yes.
And he's trying to make it work again.
And I don't
even if
think-
it's not.
And we've watched movies that have just bad Travolta performances.
Yes.
And I honestly don't think either of the three films we've watched has been a truly bad Travolta performance.
They've not been great.
They've not been
Two of a
great.
Kind isn't fabulous, but he's fine in it.
He's fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's fine. He didn't deserve a Razzie for that. He didn't deserve a Razzie for this movie especially.
Yes.
I would say he's doing the same blowout,
yeah.
not too eccentric, but kind of in a steady pace.
Is he blowout levelness? No, but he's doing the work and he's accomplishing it.
Yeah.
And I think that this movie's just a victim of the dogpile effect.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, I don't want to get back into the blowout thing, but yeah, it is really sad because I don't hate him yet. You know, I have yet to watch a movie that has made me hate John Travolta.
Yes.
So far, I want to see this guy do a good movie, and the fact that we have how many more to go before Pulp Fiction?
9 more. We have a rough few weeks coming up.
Yeah, I'm just I know probably one of them is going to be the breaking point for me.
Yeah.
I'll be like, maybe John Travolta isn't that good, and then we get to Pulp Fiction and it reinvigorates it a little bit. But so far, I don't think that.
Yeah.
So far, I think he's still got it.
I mean, going back to our moment by moment episode of All Things, we talked about that quote from Lily Tomlin about Travolta as an actor being this guy of contradictions. And how his femininity and sexuality and all this stuff.
Moment by Moment is an example of a bad Travolta performance.
A bad movie, a bad performance.
Yes.
We have struggled to talk about.
That is a Razzie performance right there. He has not done anything to that part yet.
But going back to that quote, it takes Travolta's an actor who isn't always going to give you a great performance. It takes a special director, I feel to get that out of him and figure it out.
Yeah.
And he's struggling to find those directors right now who know how to coax a performance out of him and how to
want to touch him
and how to use him correctly.
Yeah.
And it'll take a while before we get to a point where people are willing, or not willing, but the right people have him as their Play-Doh model to
I'm just trying to think of those directors who were big in the 80s. And
I mean, we're coming up to one of them next week. Robert Altman next week.
Yeah.
I'll use that to segue in because we'll be talking a fair bit about all this next week.
Yeah.
And I think we've kind of just summarized perfect how we feel about it.
It's not terrible.
It's not perfect, but it's not terrible.
Yeah.
And
I would recommend one watch.
I would recommend a watch of it.
If you have an afternoon free, just give it a shot. Be open to it.
Yes. Check out Perfect. I found a great $8 box set of movies online that has 3 modern Travolta movies and then press this for some reason.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
Yeah.
But yeah, after the failure of this movie, Travolta will sing. He does not do another movie for like 5 years. Aside from the one we're covering next week, which is like a half a movie and a TV that aired on TV.
So his next movie isn't until the 90s?
It's until 89. He goes from Perfect in 85, actually 4 years. Perfect in 85 to The Experts and Look Who's Talking in 89.
2 movies.
2 movies in 1 year.
Do you think that was, and I'm sure we might talk about this in the next episode, but I feel like it's valid now. Do you think that was a purposeful sabbatical?
I think it's partially purposeful. I think it was a mix of him wanting to take some time off and also people not giving him the roles he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And then he comes back and kind of just squats for a little bit until Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
But talking about that sabbatical, we have the one thing that he did during that sabbatical called Basements, which we will be covering next week. Thank you all for listening to this episode on Perfect.
Yeah.
We hope you guys will join us next week for Basements. To clarify, we're only covering half of Basements.
Yeah, because it's a two-parter.
It is 2 movies, filmed separately, completely independent, that are just packaged as one thing called Basements.
Yeah. They aren't related to each other,
Yes.
which is why we felt like we could just cover the dumbwaiter portion.
We felt like we could only cover the one section called the dumbwaiter. They're both adaptations of plays by the same guy, which is the only reason they're packaged together. They're Harold Pinter plays.
Yeah.
But we're only covering the dumbwaiter. If you're interested in watching it, you can watch it exclusively on YouTube in VHS rip quality.
Oh, yeah.
With Arabic subtitling.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. But
that was the only way we could find to watch this movie. But it's out there. It's called The Dumbwaiter.
Do you think it's in the public domain?
I would say not.
So we can't watch it while we...
But it was directed by Robert Altman, which we'll talk about a fair bit next week.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you all for listening. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. As a reminder, we are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. You can contact us at Travolting Pod on Twitter or Instagram. You can also see updates, fun stuff, clips from the episodes, all that business on those platforms. You can pop to our Reddit, r/Travolting. It had its first post.
Our first post.
Thank
you, Reddit user, Audie and Eddie.
Yes, I'm going to actually update that Reddit sometime this week. Just so that it doesn't just say the Devil's Reign at the top of it right now.
Yeah.
Because that's what it says. If you have any comments or questions, you can email us, travoltingpodcast@gmail.com. Find me on Twitter, @JeffWSweeney.
Find me on Instagram, @StuartElmore95.
Big thanks to Rebecca Johnson for our graphic design. In studio, live. One day only. No comment.
No comment.
And Michael Van Bodegum Smith for our theme music, which you are hearing right now. Thank you, folks. Come back next week. Hope you enjoyed the episode.
All right, we're recording.
Yabba dabba doo. No. All right. For realsies,
we'll get started. You know, I've always used these intros.
Yeah, yeah.
I did the same thing for Blowout. Have you listened to
Did
Blowout?
you put it at the end?
Have you? No, I put the full intro in because the intro for Blowout is, "Are you recording?" I'm like, yeah. Are you sure? Yeah, because you didn't have headphones. Remember?
You haven't uploaded Blowout yet.
Yeah, Blowout's on.
Fake news.
Oh, I didn't put it on the episode files. It's on Spotify. It's on YouTube.
Blowout hasn't aired yet. Urban Cowboy came out last week. Blowout doesn't come out until tomorrow.
What? I need to check something. Oh, then I might have fucked up. I think I accidentally uploaded Blowout to YouTube today.
Is it on YouTube?
It's on YouTube right now.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
So I guess for our folks listening, you got Blowout a day early on YouTube.
For real, we should not use this intro. We should put this at the end because this is disastrous already.
I think it's a fine intro. I'm just double checking, making sure it didn't come out. Okay, it didn't come out on... So on all of our podcast platforms, Blowout has not come out yet. It will come out tomorrow. I did schedule that correctly. For some reason, I guess when I scheduled the YouTube one, I hit it a day early or something.
Okay.
My apologies for that, Jeff.
All right.
Our YouTube crowd isn't that big though.
Yeah, I mean, it's 12 people so far. That's not bad.
Well, I think it's our Apple podcast is surprisingly kicking off. I think
Yeah.
even more so than our Spotify.
Yeah, Apple Podcast is the most successful
Yeah.
because it just comes with your iPhone. You don't have to have a subscription.
Right. Yeah. So,
Anyway, let's do the real intro.
I mean, yeah, I'm not going to stop recording. But
Oh, no, don't stop recording.
Okay.
But we should put the preceding part of this at the end like we did for
Okay.
Grease.
So, perfect intro. Take 2.
Yes.
You don't have to clap.
Well, it's giving you a little spike.
That's true. All right. We got the spike.
Yeah, we got 2 spikes now.
Well, this one actually peaked.
Oh. Okay, I guess I wasn't good enough.
It's fine. It's not about how loud you can be, Jeff. It's not about how hard you hit. It's about
How hard you get hit, get back up. That's how winning is done.
Forward. That's how winning is done.
That was a terrible Stallone you were doing.
No, I thought that was pretty good.
Terrible.